Hey guys, what's up? My name is Naturally Nate, and today we're going to be talking about my hedgehog and like why I got her, little tips and tricks and stuff like that. If you ever want to get a hedgehog, I'm going to be going over the cage and other little things like that. So watch the whole video if you want to kind of figure all that kind of stuff out. So yeah, I hope you like it. So what I want to talk about first is kind of why I wanted to get a hedgehog. I know there's a lot of like stuff about like, oh, I want to get a hedgehog. Hedgehogs are cool. Oh, they're make me popular. Blah 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 blah. And for me, it was more just like, hedgehogs are freaking adorable, dude. Have you ever seen one? Like, let me put a picture here. Here, here's some hedgehogs. They're awesome. They're really cool. I never knew you could own one as a pet. I just thought they're little things. You know, there's the African pygmy hedgehogs, which are the ones you can actually own. And then there's the ones that are like the European hedgehogs, which are like the ones that you find in your garden and stuff like that. I waited probably like a solid year, until I like knew for a fact that I could get one. I did did a ton of research and stuff like that. And you'll kind of see all that kind of research I did. I'll tell you all about the cage, how I built it, what you kind of need for the cage, and other kind of stuff, what I feed and all that kind of stuff. So, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys reasons why I got one. It wasn't because I wanted to get popular. It wasn't because it wasn't an impulse buy. I waited probably like a solid year and looked up a bunch of stuff, talked to a bunch of people who had their own hedgehogs or stuff like that. I went to a breeder. I went to two breeders actually, and kind of held a hedgehog and made sure I really want one, because they can be moody pets. They're not exactly cuddlers, though some can be. They're different. They're kind of like cats in some ways. They're just kind of there. Sometimes they want to hang out with you, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're in a really pissy attitude. Sometimes they're really nice and they'll just cuddle up next to you, and they'll just be in the nook of your armpit and they'll just kind of hang there. And other times, they're just snapping at you or just constantly puffing up. And there's other reasons as to why that happens, and I'll go into that later. But they're moody pets. They're solitary animals. They don't have a pack. They live on their own. They don't necessarily want to be messed with, but if you mess with them enough, they'll come around. They'll get used to you. So yeah, and that was kind of the perfect pet I kind of wanted. I just wanted a pet that would wouldn't mind being by you, but at the same time, it's totally fine being left alone for 24 hours. Although don't leave it alone for 5 days. One day, that's something. As long as you're making sure you're taking care of it and you checked on it during that day. But if you're super busy that day, it's fine if it's left alone. If you want to take it out for 15 minutes, you can take it out for 15 minutes. If you want to take it out for 2 hours, you can take it out for 2 hours. It's one of those kind of pets. And then there's a ton of other things that'll help you kind of keep it out. There's tons of different types of hedgehogs, personality-wise, that they really like. So, but I'll get into all that later. I have a whole kind of bullet list that I'm going to go down. So first and foremost, let's go over this beauty right here. It's the cage. I built it with my stepdad Todd. It took a lot of time. It didn't really take. It took a week probably. This cage was probably around $200 to build. We did some improvising, and there's some, of course, some things that didn't necessarily work. So mostly what we used for the cage was plywood, some other little kind of wood like this, just to give it kind of a nice little border look. So we just used some border pieces, nails that we sanded down completely. Some other extra little pieces that we found around there that was already finished and stuff like that. And then some sticker linoleum on the inside to kind of help it clean. So what we did, hedgehogs need to be in a 2x4 cage. Now, I say need. Some beg to differ. Some, say, oh, you can just cut them in this little bin that's about this big. And I'm, the first breeder I went to, I won't say names, but they showed me the bin that's the cage that they come in, and I was like, holy shit, that's really small. When I heard they need to be in these huge cool cages, and I was like, and first of all, I love pampering my pets. I want to make sure my pets were pampered. So I was like, let's screw 2x4. Let's make a 3x5 cage. I think it's a 3.5x5 cage. Actually, no, it is 3x5. So I make sure that she had plenty of room to do whatever they wanted. I wanted to make sure that she had tons of stuff in there, although I need to get more stuff because obviously she's getting bored because I don't know if you can see. I don't have her out now because I already messed with her a little bit today, so I wanted to give her a break. But I'll take her out so you can see her. She is currently now underneath this lining that I put under there because I didn't think that they would do that. I mean, I know they're foragers, and I have tons of toys and little things like that for her to forage. I have a dig box and all that kind of stuff in there. But no, she's kind of decided to go underneath the cage now. So whoop-de-doo. It's mostly plywood, other little pieces of wood that we put together to create a border. This was a shelving unit. Let me take this off. This was a shelving unit that was at least, I think it was 20 feet by like whatever this is. I think this was like 2.5. And we just cut that down. Actually, I don't think it was 20 feet. I think it was like 12 foot. So we just cut that down, and we had some extra. The original plan was to hook some kind of brackets up here so it would just stay up if I wanted to, but I kind of like being able to take it off and not have it hang there. So I'm going to leave it like that. But yeah, so those are kind of the top open cages. On the side, I drilled some holes. So that way there's more airway, even though she has an open top. There's about a foot where these rest on. So it's not completely open top. It's like 2/3 open top, I guess. So there's holes on the side just to help. And then here, right here, this is acrylic glass type thing. It's not real glass. It's a plexiglass. That's what it's called, plexiglass. So I use plexiglass. And I use these pieces to kind of make sure that's held in place. Although this part is kind of coming undone up here, so I have to kind of fix that, maybe use some wood glue or whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of the cage itself. It's 30 by 5. Just some simple finished wood, some plywood. You know, if you get any like other wood that's not finished, you're gonna have to kind of focus some more on doing some other stuff to it. Even though it is a finished wood, like plywood is pretty finished. You know, some people say like, oh, you know, you can use wood and you can use plywood and you don't really have to worry about it. I couldn't find. I still wanted to finish it, the plywood even further, but I couldn't find the specific kind of like wood finish that was safe for animals and stuff like that. At either place I was going to try and find it, like Home Depot, Lowe's, stuff like that, I just couldn't find it. So I decided to finally just use linoleum. Linoleum is super easy to wipe down. Before I even put down the linoleum, is I used a aquarium fish pet safe sealant on the inside of it. So that makes sure that no water or pee or something like that can get into the cracks of the wood and stuff like that. So I put that all around the areas that I think she could possibly get to. And then I decided to then put the linoleum over that and then finish it again one more time just to keep that extra kind of safety. So an extra part of the cage you really need to focus about is heating the cage. So that's also why I have this open top here, and I have holes on the side and stuff as well. My basement's pretty big. There's a lot of vents down here, so depending on what temperature we're trying to keep it in the house, it typically is that temperature in the basement. So if it's 68 degrees in the house, it'll be 68 degrees down here. If it's 75 degrees in the house, it'll be 75 degrees down here. So that means I really have to be careful with the heating wise, because African pygmy hedgehogs are, of course, from Africa. They have to be warm. They're used to that, and the breeder that I got her from, she's an excellent breeder. She kept her hedgehogs from around like 80 degrees to 82, I think, because she had like this really cool room that was all set up and stuff like that. So I will, of course, put her information, stuff like that, down at the bottom, because she's really good. I highly recommend checking her out. She was super informative. She came out, she brought out some of her other babies. She just showed us, showed us how they're healthy. Zelda also has a really cool story. Zelda was at first denied by her mother. She was a runt, so she was denied. And then she was given to another mother who then nursed her back to health, so she was really strong, and it was really cool. So yeah, so heating wise, there are pretty much 3 main options depending on size. So I'm kind of using all 3 options. One of them is currently off, but that's fine. So the one option is using a heat lamp type thing. So right now my heat lamp is on. I have it set to stay on and heat up to 85 degrees, and once it's 85 degrees inside the cage, it'll turn off. Although my cage has never really my cage has never been heated up to 85 degrees before. So it's constantly running, constantly moving, stuff like that. So I have one on that side of the cage, which is typically the less heated side, which is the right side of the cage, or I guess your left side. But onto the other side of the cage, I have, which you can't really see, is a space heater. The space heater stays on pretty much all day. It typically heats up this side of the cage, and just constantly makes sure like that warm air is constantly going over this way. I have 2 thermostats in there to constantly regulate and make sure the heat. They're really close to each other, so I need to kind of change that. One One thermostat regulates the heat lamp. One is just a regular thermostat, so I constantly know what temperature it is inside the cage. Her cage mainly stays between 75 and 80, I believe. Just because I said the air down here is kind of weird. Also, since the thermostats are really close to that, it can give it kind of a bad reading. So I constantly, I check on her every day, make sure she's not hibernating, make sure it's not really cold or anything like that. Especially if I feel really cold in the basement, I immediately go and check on her, check the temperature in the cage, make sure she's feeling okay, check her stomach. If her stomach is cold, that means she's starting to hibernate or she's thinking about it. But if her tummy's warm, she's moving around, she's really spry, then she's all good. I'll let her go back to sleep because they're nocturnal animals. So heating is very important. So those are the main two that people like to use a lot. A third one, which is typically used for a bin cage, which is one of those plastic ones. Those are typically smaller and they hold heat in better. People like to use heat mats. Now I know people are like, whoa, heat mats, those can get really hot. Yeah, well, they're special heat mats. I think this is called like a K&H pet mat type thing or small rodent. So like for like small cats, ferrets, guinea pigs, rabbits, and hedgehogs, of course. You put that underneath their bin. You put the fleece liner on top of it, and it kind of helps keep the cage very warm. And it doesn't get above 102 degrees. So yeah, so I do have one of those heat mats. It's right underneath her bed, which she never uses, of course. But I have that plugged in all the time just to make sure there's some extra warmth in there at all times. We're gonna go on to the inside of the cage. So the inside of the cage, I have the fleece liner. So I'm gonna go over the fleece liner real quick. It's around the size of the cage, maybe an inch shorter. On the top, I have a no-pill fleece liner, or a fleece blanket type thing, fleece sheet. On the inside of that, I have a mattress protector, a waterproof mattress protector, and then on the bottom of it, I have another mattress protector that's more squishy and like fluffy. So that way she has like a lot of squish for her to walk on. Nothing's too hard in case she were to like roll over or climb onto something and fall off. She always has something nice and squishy to land on, and it'll also create a ton of heat for her to make sure that she's always nice and cozy to sleep on. Although I don't know why she is currently underneath on the hard linoleum, so they need a wheel. That's another thing I have in the cage is a wheel. I use the Carolina Storm bucket wheel. They're huge. They're super quiet too, because they will run pretty much all night long. Some hedgies don't, some hedgies do, some hedgies just use it occasionally. Usually every time I get up at night to either like go to the bathroom or get some water or something like that, or I'm hungry and I want to get a snack, or I'm up later doing something, she's always running. I can just hear the wheel. I mean, like, it's quiet, but you can still hear her like little feet patter on it. Yeah, she's always running on it. So you constantly need one. It comes with a litter tray in case anything does fall on it. So that's also another reason is that a lot of hers actually do tend to fall into the litter tray. Now I'm going to say about this. A lot of people recommend using litter. I would say I recommend it. But the thing is that it didn't work for her. I was using Yesterday News, which is a #1 like recommended litter thing for Hedgehog. So I used that. I tried using a little bit, and I tried using a lot. A lot of it worked for a bit because I could just scoop it out and then just replace it, and it kind of made sure that the litter pan was always clean. But when I only used a little bit, it never worked. The litter pan just kept getting gross and stuff like that, and I felt like I always still had to clean it every single day. Is that it seemed like she was almost eating the litter. I couldn't say almost, I'm pretty sure she was eating the litter. I would find pieces of the litter kind of chewed up all over the place. Her poop kind of started to turn green. She kind of had like stringy poop. And so I'm pretty sure she started to eat it. I didn't know if it started off as first her trying to annoy it with the new smell, or she just genuinely thought it was food and started to eat it. So I had to remove that from her cage entirely. So I even tried again, like after a week or 2 weeks. I don't remember what time, but I did wait after a while, giving her a break from it and putting it back in, and I had still found crumbs and it kind of smushed up. So I wanted to make sure that she didn't get any kind of harmful ways. I did monitor her that after a while, but her poops turned back to normal. She was still eating fine. She was still running. You know, nothing was hurting her. So in a way, so I made sure that she was fine. I didn't have to take her to a vet. So I use instead toilet paper. I just take a couple rolls of toilet paper and just put it down at the bottom, and I just empty that out every day. Or paper towels. Both of those work fine. You just put that at the bottom. She'll pee on it and poop on it. She's not exactly litter trained, but when she's running the wheel, it'll just run off onto that. And the litter bucket will probably just be cleaned every 2-3 days instead of having to clean it every one day. It's going off the bucket again. Some people swear by cleaning it every single day. I don't. If it looks super grimy, I'll clean it. But other than that, it's really clean, a lot of it. So you don't really have to worry about that. Other things I have in our cage, I have a dig box. What that is a small Amazon box that I found. I cut a little thing for her to go into it. I filled it with fleece strips. So that way usually she digs in it every single day. So I wake up, when I check on her, I'll fluff it back up. So that way she has it to dig into it again. I have this little fish thing in here, which of course is knocked over because she has a brat cave in there. So she'll sometimes go in there and sleep in it. She used to sleep in it for a while, and then she stopped. And then of course I have her food bowls, her 2 food bowls, or her food bowl and her water bowl. Her food bowl I clean about every 2-3 days. Typically when I think it needs to be clean, if it starts looking gross, what I usually do is I empty the crumbs out pretty much every day, but I don't really clean it. But like if there starts to get a lot of crumbs, sometimes if I find poop in it or something like that, then I'll clean it out. Water bowl, you should probably clean out water bowl every day. Just because stuff starts to get into the water and stuff like that. But yeah, you want to make sure that she has clean, fresh water every day and food every day. And then I also have a little house right here. The house is just a big igloo for her to stay in. That igloo is clear, so then I got this little fleece thing, which does need to be cleaned soon. The little fleece just goes right over it, helps darken it, and inside of it there's a couple other fleece strips in it that help her kind of snuggle and stuff like that. Also, I have a tunnel. She loves the tunnel, but again, she has stopped sleeping in it now and has now found her new place, which is underneath the mat. So that's kind of the inside of the cage. I have tons of toys. I have a little cut paper towel roll type thing. So that way if she gets her head in it, it won't get stuck. So that way I have it cut so she can always get out. Other little toys. I don't really have any sharp toys in there. So make sure there's nothing like in there that she can poke her eye out with. I recommend a water bowl and get a heavy one. Because people say, oh, I don't like water bowls because they will knock it over. They will knock it over. So get water, whatever it's called, like a sippy water thing. And because they'll know how to drink out of it and stuff like that. And just don't get a spring-loaded one. And I'm like, well, there's a possibility for them to chip their teeth, get their tongue cut, cut their lip, poke their eye out with it and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't want them, I don't want that. And so, like, just get a heavy water bowl that they can't tip over. I've had her for 2 months now, and she's never spilled over her water once. And even if she did, like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's on a fleece waterproof thing. It'll just soak up, and I clean her cage out. So, real quick, before I move on to other kind of fun, exciting stuff about hedgehogs, light. You really need to think about lighting. If they're in, like, kind of a closet or something like that, like, you want to keep them away from people or something like that, they constantly need light. Well, not constantly. They are nocturnal animals, so they need a schedule. They need at least 12 to 14 hours of light every single day. I can admit Zelda does not get that sometimes, but I do typically make sure that she gets at least 10 to 11 hours every day. But I would recommend giving her 12 to 14 hours. But I make sure that she is on her schedule which is typically 9 to 9. Sometimes it's 9 to 10, sometimes it's 10 to 10, but I make sure that is no, like, 12 to 4. It's not, it's not something weird. It's not something that she would be completely thrown off with. I want to make sure that, it's between 9 and 9, 10 to 10, 10 to 9. It's something that wouldn't throw her off. Typically she gets up on her own time anyway. So sometimes I will turn off the light at 9 or at 10, and then within another hour she'll be up. She'll still be sleeping. Or sometimes I get up at 9, I go to turn the light, and she's still up. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give you another 30 minutes, turn off the lights, go away, wait 30 minutes, come back, now she's asleep, and I'll turn off the light. As long as you're not seeing your hedgehog stay awake until 12 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon, something like that. As long as they're kind of on some kind of schedule, they're not staying awake during the daytime, they are staying awake during the nighttime. Just make sure, stuff like that. Let's go over food. Food I used from Family Gold adult cat food. And you might be thinking like, whoa, cat food? Yeah, cat food. Cat food's actually the healthiest thing for a hedgehog to eat. And of course, like, you can give it mealworms and stuff like that. I have some mealworms in my fridge that I typically give her every now and then as snacks. They are alive, so I could give her pretty much mealworms every single day. But if they are freeze-dried, give them every now and then, just because they're not as healthy as live mealworms. So yeah, that's food. I give her 2 tablespoons. You typically want your hedgehog to stay around 300 grams. They could go up a little bit, maybe like 350. But you can typically tell when your hedgehog's getting obese. If they're getting obese, take it down a notch. 2 tablespoons is a lot. 1 tablespoon is around the good kind of area you want, especially like for more like watching a weight. But she runs on her wheel a lot, so 2 tablespoons is really good. She hasn't been getting fat. I've had her for 2 months now. I mean, she still is growing, but she has grown a little bit, and she's now kind of staying the same size. If she doesn't finish her food in one night, depending on how much it is, I'll either leave it or I'll just give her one scoop. I don't give her 2 full scoops. I'll just give her the 1 scoop, or I'll leave it for her to finish off for the night. So that covers food. And so now let's go into the kind of the main thing. Let's bring out little Zelda. So here she is. She just woke up, so she's gonna be grouchy. Make sure they can see you. Hello. Say hi. Say hello to the camera. She's really spunky. Oh, she's a butthead though. She's very sassy. So she is fine with me petting her. Some hedgehogs typically are like, they don't really care. She doesn't like being pet on the stomach. Some do, some love it. Here's her all balled up. So yeah, so this is a hedgehog. She's really cute, and I love her a lot. Sorry I'm annoying her for the 2nd time today. So typically they will just kind of stay right there. So we kind of go into more details about like what it's like personality-wise. So she is an explorer. I put her down a lot of the times, and I'll just let her go. She's not a cuddler. Well, kind of right now she's being a cuddler. But typically, she doesn't like to be pet. She doesn't like to be touched a lot. She just wants to go. I mean, she does. She doesn't mind it, but she would rather be on the ground going. Like when I have her in my hand, she just wants to keep moving, going out of my hand, just keep going around, stuff like that. So some hedgehogs are kind of explorers. That's how you bond with them. You let them go on the floor. They get in their zone. You let them anoint. Anointing is when they get a scent in their mouth and they put it on themselves. She's an anointer. She anoints all the time. Yeah, see, I don't know if you can hear that. That's them huffing. So yeah, so she's an anointer. She's also a biter. Some hedgehogs don't bite. It's really rare for them to bite. But she is. She's a very sassy hedgehog. So if I'm doing something she doesn't like, she will try and bite the closest finger that I have. But so typically what I do is I just blow on her face. I give her a quick, like, little loud puff of air. And that gets her to stop. You're not hurting her or anything. It's her trying to get her way. It's her saying, like, oh, don't do that because I want to do this. But as weird as it sounds, she's your pet. you don't have to let her do things that you don't want her to do. She'll kind of figure it out. She's gotten better now. Like, I haven't gotten bitten in a long time, but like today she kind of tried to nip at me because I was not necessarily letting her go underneath this because I didn't want her to. And as soon as she realized it was my hand holding down the fleece blanket, she started trying to bite me. And that's when I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to let you have your way. And of course, that's not exactly what you should do. But it's whatever. So some hedgehog tips. There's bonding scarves. And there's hedgie sacks. So ways to bond with them is, of course, letting them run out on the floor and do things like that. Hedgie sacks are a great way. You just put them right there. You can put them in your lap, and you just watch a movie, do whatever, and they'll get your scent through the hedgie sack. Stuff like that. Put them in your sweatshirt or anything like that, and they'll start getting your scent. There's these things like this. You put them around your neck, and they'll just sit right inside. They'll walk around. They'll fall asleep. They'll do things like that. And then it's also another great way because that way you don't have to carry it around in this. It'll just be around your neck, and you don't have to worry about it, and you have both hands to freely do things. So I'll put all these items down below in the description if you're interested in looking at them. I bought a lot of them from Etsy. Same thing with things in the cage. I'll put all those kind of links in the description below for you to look at. So bathing, there's typically a lot of things you need to do. For bathing, they need foot baths, probably at least once a week, or depending just how dirty their feet get. Foot baths, because they tend to run on their wheel every day, so they tend to poop on their wheel as well. So they'll tend to run on their poop. So you want to make sure that their feet are clean. And that helps them from spreading diseases or just getting gross and getting themselves sick. So you just fill up your bath with just a little bit of warm water. If it feels a little bit warm for you, like typically like lukewarm, maybe a little bit warmer than lukewarm, but it shouldn't be hot by any means. Just kind of so they can soak their feet in it. And you also want to get like baby nail clippers, and you also want to make sure that their nails are clipped. If you want instructions on how to do that, there's a lot out there. I can also give you instructions on how to do that. She's really hard to get her nails clipped, but I can definitely show you how to do that as well. And then for a normal bath, you want to get some like baby Aveeno baby bath and a toothbrush. And the toothbrush allows you to get into the quills and make sure she's all clean. And you want the Aveeno oatmeal because that helps soothe the skin a little bit more. They tend to get dry skin. And you can tell when they get dry skin is when like you start to see it on your hands. They get flaky skin. You start to see flakes on you or around you or wherever they are at. You can see it on their quills, definitely. So other ways to prevent them getting flaky skin is you can also put some olive oil on them, like a couple little drops after their bath, some vitamin E oil, I believe it is, and some coconut oil, some edible oil. You don't want to put a lot on there or else it'll make them very greasy. But especially when she is super dry skin, just because it can be dry down here, I typically cover her a little bit more. Even if she gets a little bit greasy, I don't mind it. I don't mind having a greasy hog. So I make sure that she just is the most comfortable, especially when she was quilling. So another thing is quilling is kind of them losing their baby teeth, but it's instead their baby quills. So that means pretty much whenever you hold them, whenever you see them in the morning, stuff like that, you will find quills everywhere. You will find them in your shirt, in the fleece blanket, in their snuggle sacks, everywhere. It'll look like they exploded. That's okay. Nothing's wrong with them. You do want to make sure, though, you can usually, if you look at it and there's like a tiny little ball at the end of their quill, it means that it's fine. Everything's normal. And you also want to double check. You can look through their quills and make sure that their quills are growing back. So if you have any more questions about what it's like to own a hedgehog, just let me know. Leave a like. If you like this video, if you want more videos about her. Like I said, there's might be a couple videos just because I've been talking about this a lot. But yeah, so hedgehogs are a lot of fun. I really enjoy owning her. It's definitely one of my favorite pets besides like a dog. My dog is crazy about her. She like literally won't leave her alone, especially whenever I have her out. It's a ton of fun. It's definitely a pet I recommend if you have the time and you have the money for her. They are expensive. They are around maybe $200 to $300 to own. But so if you have any questions, just please let me know. I am more than happy to answer. This is my first hedgehog, so I am learning as much as you guys are probably learning. So it is probably great if we learn together. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And they're a blast. I love it. So subscribe if you want to. Leave a like. And shoot any questions that you want. Say bye, Zelda. Okay, you're not going to get any more than that from her. She's sassy right now. But anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.